Obviously, you have spent pretty much the entire week looking at the on-chain metrics, and it feels like there's some high-level takeaways. Maybe let's just start there. Like, what at a high level happened this week when Bitcoin's price crashed?
Yeah, so like if we just want to get, the gist of the kind of TLDR of what happened, I think the major points are before we had this dump, we started to see exchange flows flip kind of bearish. Throughout the entire bull market, we've seen coins continue, moving off exchanges. That's been a big narrative that has kind of been driving this cycle. But in the days before the dump, especially the day before the dump, we saw coins move on to exchanges at like unprecedented levels for this bull market. In fact, like the day before the dump, we had the all-time high of coins moving onto Binance ever, like in the history of Glassnode's data recording the exchange flow. So there was like a swath of coins that kind of moved onto exchanges, presumably to sell, right? I think, you know, a lot of times we assume that coins moving onto exchanges is only selling. It can also be things like, people posting collateral, or people, on Binance depositing coins to use derivatives on Binance. But a fair portion of that, it's safe to say, is being sold. So we saw, those flows kind of switch around in the days before, especially the day before Wednesday on Tuesday. We started to see those coins come on exchanges. Another key takeaway is that coins that were sold were younger, um, which is a good thing, because when you see, at cycle tops, it's usually the long term holders that are kind of dumping over at the top and selling into strength as retail kind of comes in. But what we saw were young coins, specifically whales. So it seemed like perhaps funds that had gotten in and call it the like 10 to 20K band. The coins that were sold were, and when you look at the age of them, that kind of lines up with where that kind of 10 to 20K band was. And then there were a fair amount that were sold, that had been bought recently, probably, in around that 55K to $60,000 range. But there were a fair amount that were sold at a loss, which we can get into. The big sudden price drop that we saw, especially that last big wick down to about, whatever was 30K, got up to the high 20s on some exchanges. That was really driven by the liquidations, which we'll get into as well. But when you see that big drop, that big sudden drop, a lot of times what that is it's this cascade of liquidations, which is what happened Wednesday. A lot of leverage has been wiped out now. We'll get into that as well. But futures open interest is way down from where it was at the beginning of the week, which is a good thing, in terms of the leverage doesn't have the leverage traders don't have as much impact on the price as spot does, which is generally good to see. I'm sure the leverage will come back, but for now, it's been wiped out. Like one way to look at it is the funding rates, but the funding rates have been negative since Wednesday, so it's showing the traders are not looking to go long right now, and funding is pretty much dead. And then the coins that are being sold now, I think it's just going to take a while for for the coins to kind of sift into new hands that are not going to sell. That process of kind of reaccumulation, if you will, is going to take a little bit of time for sure.